Hello, and welcome to Steps to Sustainable Living, a podcast that talks all about living off the land and providing for yourself. My name is Jackson Rose, and I'll be your guide for the adventure of living off the land. It's the last semester of the school year, which means it's the time of year where a lot of people who are still in school are experiencing a lot of different emotions. For a lot of high school students, it is their last semester before college and their last few months before moving out on their own. This can be a very stressful thought for a lot of youths who have never lived on their own before. And one of the most important things someone has to do when they live alone is provide for themselves. You don't live with your parents anymore, which means you have to do things like pay your own bills, get yourself around to the places you need to go, and of course, get yourself food. And expenses like that can be very difficult to add on to the ones you have by default in college. You know, the ones like tuition, books, housing or rent, all of the things that you can't really get out of. And then, of course, there is what you buy yourself to eat. Between classes, studying, and the fact that you probably have at least a part-time job to pay for necessities in your life, you may not be eating as well as you should. You may just eat a bag of chips or some microwave burritos while you're studying because it's not only easy, it's cheap. And cheap is something that always helps in these situations. The purpose of this podcast is to help ease up on those inevitable food needs that are always going to be there. Because you can't just say, you know what, while I'm in college, I'm just not going to eat to save money for other things. That's just not reasonable. For this first episode, we are starting small and talking about starting a garden bed in smaller living areas, like a dorm room or apartment. I have a special guest here with me today. Courtney, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Jackson, for having me.
Courtney has a great deal of knowledge in the path to get things going and what the best things to start growing are. She is here to help answer questions about how and why growing your own food can be beneficial to college students. Whether you are just starting your first year or have been in college for a few years and want tips because you know how hard it is to find a good meal without spending an arm and a leg. Okay, let's dig in. Courtney, how long have you been growing your own food?
That's a great question, Jackson. Well, I've been growing since I was a child. I had herb gardens and vegetables and fruits available on the ranch that I grew up on. But really, as a business, in 2007, my partner and I just started to take our savings and put it all into the farm and try and grow everything that we wanted to consume.
Wow, that's a bold move. And what made you want to take this public instead of keeping it private?
Well, in 2007, my boyfriend got laid off, and we decided that we didn't want to leave the mountain where we lived. It's a 7-mile trip to the small town where we live and another 40 miles one way or 70 miles another to get groceries, and we thought we should just be growing for ourselves. But other people were interested in knowing what we were doing, so we thought, why not make it so that everybody can enjoy this? And it's important. During 9/11, we had the boat stop. Living on an island, we're very at the whim of the mainland. So when we want to have fresh vegetables or meat, we're not able to get it sometimes. So we thought, what better way to have it than to provide it for ourselves?
And what kind of things do you grow on your own farm?
Well, currently we grow meat rabbits, chickens, goats for milk. We get the eggs and the meat from the chicken, so that's a good deal. And a lot of vegetables. We like to cook, and we're really getting into canning this year. So we have an abundance of meat and vegetables that we can keep for many, many months.
What kind of vegetables?
Well, we fancy street tacos quite a bit. So we grow a lot of cilantro and green onions and garlic. And then your basic salad greens. 4 or 5 kinds of lettuce. But back to your original question, the reason we wanted to take this public and not just keep it private is based on the castle idea. that if we can provide for ourselves and 10 others, then those 10 others, come some kind of random future event, will help to protect the castle and where their food comes from. So we like to go out into our community and other communities and teach people that you can grow many, many things in a very small space. My motto is, there's no space too small.
That leads to my next question. How much space do you really need?
A lot less than people think. In 2017 and 18, I really focused my sustainable workshops on container gardening. I heard from a lot of people in Kona, the large city 45 miles from our home, that we would deliver vegetables and herbs and eggs, and the people would be really excited and say, oh, I wish I could do this. And I would tell them, well, you can, of course. Get a 5-gallon bucket and start from there. There's no space too small. People have balconies, a little piece of a countertop that gets some direct or indirect sun, depending on what you're growing. There's really no excuse not to grow something. Everybody, I truly believe, has enough space for a shoebox or a 5-gallon bucket. And you can get seeds or vegetable starts right from your groceries and your daily vegetables and fruits you eat.
And what are the kinds of things that you think are best to start with?
Well, I always like herbs. A little bit of herbs in your fresh salad or in a dish really makes you feel decadent, and it's so easy to grow. My top 3 are always cilantro, green onions, and celery, because celery and green onions both can grow from the end that you cut off after you've enjoyed the main portion of the vegetable. Like with a celery, if you cut the stalk about an inch from the bottom, you can set that in a moist plate, spray it with a little bit of water for a few days, and it will root. And then you can plant that in your garden, and you will have the best tasting celery stalks in just a couple months. Same thing with cilantro, a big staple in our street tacos.
I think I'm coming over to your house for dinner tomorrow. That sounds like a pretty small area, a 5-gallon bucket. How can this help people financially? Is it really worth it to plant such small things?
It's definitely worth it. I think that having cuttings from the leftover that is pretty much trash in a lot of people's eyes, like in the green onions, if you cut the end off the green onion an inch long, put them in a glass of water, within 24 hours, you already have a half an inch to an inch of growth. And in a few days, you could be cutting those green onions and having them on a baked potato. A potato that you grew in another 5-gallon bucket. You could get 15, 20 pounds in 2 5-gallon buckets, which is a lot of potatoes. I mean, when you think about it, if you were able to grow your green onions, you would be able to save anywhere from $4 to $7, depending on if you're buying them from the grocery store, and those onions are often sprayed with chemicals and toxic things, whereas organic onions are, of course, going to be a little bit more expensive, and they're harder to find. And really, it's hard these days to know who you can trust. The word organic is thrown around so loosely that I don't know if it's really grown with the appropriate standard practices of what the USDA says organic is, or if they're just saying organic because they're not spraying it with some toxic chemical, yet they're not using safe practices like getting organic seeds. They don't know if their seeds are GMO seeds that have been enhanced or what really they're growing. So I definitely believe that growing for yourself, when you can take cuttings that are basically trash, instead of composting them, you put them in a bucket. And in days, you'll already see the benefits. They really say you reap what you sow. And I believe that you really will see a benefit within 20 days of 5 or 6 different varieties of herbs and vegetables, like green onions, celery, lettuce. You just pinch the outer leaves of the lettuce off and you could have a salad every day.
That sounds like it's really adding to living a healthy lifestyle. what are some other ways that growing your own food can be beneficial to a person other than just financially?
Well, Jackson, I think that with this time of year, when we're getting close to graduation, I myself have a daughter who's a senior in high school and is going to be going away to college, and she will live part-time on the other side of the island, so I won't be cooking family meals for her every night. So I think her being able to take a little bit of home with her to her dorm or her apartment, wherever she's going to live, will make that transition a little bit easier. And easy things like, if you don't have the space for a 5-gallon bucket, or you want something a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, you could try hanging baskets or window boxes. We have a lot of options available to us. I'm a big fan of hanging baskets, and here's a couple reasons why. One, there are a lot of options that you can grow in a hanging basket, whether it be edible flowers, vegetables, herbs, and it doesn't take up a lot of ground space. It's a beautiful addition to any patio or bright room. You can hang them right in your kitchen, and you can grow 2 or 3 things in each basket.
Yes, some of the things that I have heard about putting in different baskets have been mint, parsley, as well as talking about the edible flowers. The ones that I've heard of are nasturtiums and Johnny Jump-Ups, which go great in salads as well as many other dishes. They can also make you feel really good about yourself. When you're using your own herbs, you start to feel a little more high class maybe, and like a chef instead of just cooking for yourself at home.
I would agree. I definitely like the feeling of adding a little bit of color and a peppery taste to my salads with nasturtiums. Or they're a great addition to spring rolls, another family favorite. There, we're using mint, basil, green onions, lettuce, carrots, celery, a daikon, and the nasturtiums all inside of our spring rolls. So they are not only colorful, but they're delicious and healthy.
Sounds like everything you just listed can be something that you can grow either in a 5-gallon bucket or in one of your hanging baskets or garden beds.
That's for sure.
And that definitely sounds like something easy to make that anybody can do, as well as it's very financially beneficial because you're growing it all yourself, so it lasts for a long time.
And because you're not having to buy it already cut off the vine or off the plant, you really can go and just pinch your herbs and get a few basil leaves. And a few fresh basil leaves goes a long way. Then when your plant is overproductive, you could have a day of making sauces, something like pesto. Here in Hawaii, we have an abundance of macadamia nuts available, and I like to make a mac nut pesto and then can it. Or we will get cilantro and chop it up and put it in ice cube trays and freeze it. And then when you make chili, or we make this hatch chili habanero sauce for our street tacos. Here I am, back to the street tacos.
You're making me hungry again.
Oh, well, I would be happy to have you over for dinner anytime. And we will have street tacos. Maybe rabbit street tacos. How would you like that?
I would love that. I've only had rabbit a couple times, and I must say I've enjoyed it in a plethora of ways.
That's great. Can I ask, how did you find rabbits available in your community?
I started getting into sustainable living because I feel like it is so good for the environment. And I started looking into local farmers because I am a big advocate of supporting your local community. I live in a very small area where you need to support your local community in order to really have that relationship and that kinship with people. And with that, I found going to butchers not only benefits the community, but it also makes you feel good because you're not supporting an industry that has a lot of negativities to it, in my opinion.
That's true. And as a farmer, I appreciate any local business that people provide to me. I really like trading and bartering and selling. And I pretty much sell mostly to private people instead of at farmers markets because I appreciate the one-on-one interaction with people. I'm able to tell people, not only can you buy these vegetables from me, but you too could have these vegetables growing in any size plot that you can afford the space.
I definitely get that rapport when you're with the one-on-one people. And not only does it make you feel good, you know where your meat is coming from. That is another thing about the industry that is negative, is that the animals are treated very harshly and they're not in the best of conditions. I like the fact that I am able to go to the person's house, or have the opportunity to, where I can see the exact meat that I am going to get and know that it is having a good life.
I agree. I'm very happy to be able to provide meat rabbits to 20 or 30 different people in my 100-mile radius that I deliver to, and I provide cheese and eggs and herbs, and the fact that the rabbits get to eat all these great vegetables that we're growing is just another benefit. We know exactly what they're eating. They're living a good life, and when it comes time for them to sacrifice their life to us so that we can enjoy their meat, I feel 100% confident in the fact that I gave them the best life that they could have, and I'm providing my family with meat that is sustainable and healthy.
Going into the providing meat for people, other than just vegetables having in an apartment, do you believe that animals can be incorporated into these small, sustainable living areas like apartments?
Well, I really only think that if you live in a rural area, you could probably have a couple chickens to provide you with fresh eggs. But really, I think the best way is to cultivate a relationship with a local farmer. Put an ad on Craigslist. I've been found by many people just having an ad on Craigslist, and I'm perusing it for animals or for different things for sale, and I see some ad of people basically pleading that, I really need vegetables for my family, and I live in the wet side of the island, so there's all these things that they are not able to grow, and I feel for them. And so I will contact them and tell them, this is what I grow. I live on a new lava field. It's less than 180 years old. It has no soil. It's at the top of a hill, so we have strong winds. We have nothing to slow the wind down, so we've had to, over the years, provide a lot of mulch and compost. And because we have so many animals, with the manure we are able to provide ourselves, we have really nice, healthy soil to grow a lot of things in. And because we're at a high elevation, almost 5,000 feet, we can grow apple trees and cherry trees. Figs do really great. We've done great with spinach and all kinds of different greens that are very popular. We have a lot of different ethnicities here in our town. We have 2 Thai restaurants. We have 2 pizzerias. And they love the fresh vegetables and herbs that we're able to provide. Even sometimes when we just have a specialty crop of something small, they'll have a special menu of, while it lasts, of some kind of special sauce or salad or anything like that. We just really appreciate being able to share with our community this sustainable way of helping each other.
If I wanted to start this today, what would be my very first step to take?
Well, I would think that you would want to make a list of some herbs and vegetables that you like to consume on a daily to weekly basis, and then do a little bit of research into how fast do they grow. There's many, many crops that grow within 25 days. Radishes, lettuce, green onions. There's a lot of microgreens. Sprouts are another wonderful addition to salads and sandwiches that my family really loves. And you can grow sunflower sprouts in 5 days. All kinds of pea shoots, microgreens, radish sprouts. Those are 3 to 5 days. You already see the benefit growing right there in a tray. So I would say make a list of the things that you like to have, narrow it down to the top 3 fastest growing things on your list, and then go to your local store, like a hardware store or even grocery stores, and buy some seeds. Get yourself some soil, and then just start planting in any container you have. An old dish pan, an old ice chest works great, a 5-gallon bucket. There's really no need to have the expense of buying fancy containers when a lot of people just have something at home that they can disguise as, a growing bed. Ice chest works great because it has the drain in the bottom, so you don't have your soil get over waterlogged, but you're able to collect all that water that will come out of your ice chest, which is very nutrient-y. And you just need to keep that to the side, add some extra water to it, and then you could be watering other vegetables and fruit trees with that healthy water. And I would say that if you could get a hold of local people in your area, they might have seeds that they're willing to give you of things that are acclimated to your altitude or to your elevation. And I'm fortunate enough, we have this place called the Ka'u Seed Library, and every week they offer you packets of seeds that you can grow right now. Things like peas and greens and beans and pumpkins and squash and all kinds of herbs. So it's really abundant if you just know where to look. Craigslist is another great place. Put an ad saying you want to get some vegetable starts or some seeds, and people will contact you within hours ready to share, because there's a lot of like-minded people that think growing for yourself is the right thing to do.
This also sounds like it would build some fantastic skills that you can share with others in the future.
It's great. I love to get together and do the live workshops with people. We get a small group of 6 to 10 people, and we really get our hands dirty. There's a lot of laughter, and at the end, you've made 8 to 10 great friends who you will be in contact with. And when you grow things like, at our elevation, we can't grow papayas very easily. So we have friends that grow an abundance of papayas, and we trade them apples. And we trade them spinach and lettuce and things that do really good at our altitude. So you really can make lifelong friendships.
Wow, that's a lot of great information. I can't wait to start getting my hands dirty. Thank you so much for coming on the show today, Courtney.
Thank you, Jackson, for having me and for thinking that this was a subject that you wanted to share with other people. I love to grow. I love to share my knowledge, and I'm so happy that this may have inspired you as well to start any size garden, a container garden or an acre plot.
I loved having you on the show. Hopefully we'll see you again in the future. Have a wonderful day, y'all, and let's take this next step to sustainable living together.